So you're in your 20s or you're in your 30s, however old you are, you're watching this video, and you're wondering if you're doing things right. You're not sure if you're doing things right. Well, how do you know if you are doing things right? Well, number one, it takes you to be fully healed from any kind of trauma. So, are you healed from your trauma? You first have to ask yourself these series of questions. Are you first healed from your trauma? Was there any kind of trauma that you don't really know about? And you have to be serious about this. You have to give yourself compassion and give yourself forgiveness for any kind of mistakes that you've made. You also have to understand that some mistakes cannot be wiped away. It's like a Sharpie on the wall. Sometimes, no matter how much you put your shoulder into it, it's just not going to go away. This feeling of not being able to wipe away your sins it's not going to go away. And so what can you do? The best thing that you can do is transmute that energy and create a mural. You create something beautiful with it. Strive for redemption or strive for salvation. That's the only way that you're going to be able to transcend that. Now, I myself am 27, and it wasn't until about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, when I really started to get my butt into gear on how short this life really is. Like, I've always been existential. I've always known that there was there was an end to this life, in one degree or another. Like, as a biological organism, I'm going to die someday. That is just the truth. But I never realized how fast things can go. And so one thing that I will say to all of the men and to all of the women is that all of this BS that the system that we have in our society, the matrix, whatever you want to call it, talks to you about getting a job, getting that degree, getting those skills. Don't get married. Participate in hookup culture. Who cares? We're sexually liberated. Go out there. Just, if you're going to have sex, just be safe. That's all you need to do. All this BS, throw it out the window right now. Just throw it away and commit to God's laws and statutes and commandments. Why? Why do we need to revert back to traditional values in that sense? Because it's something that has stood the test of time. It's something that created something valuable. We wouldn't have had these amazing technologies and experiences and possibilities if it weren't for traditional values in the first place. So when in doubt, revert to traditional values and then go from there. Now, as far as women go, if you're a woman watching this, I highly encourage you to get the best man that you can as young as you can. Even if you're 18, 19 years old, if you feel like, wow, this guy can make it, like he can do this, and he can lead my mind for sure to where we need to go. I could foresee a family with this guy. Go for it. Go for it. Let him know. You guys want equality. You guys want all these things. You've got to be more communicative. Women often say that men aren't communicative. Men are very direct. They're very direct. At least the strong ones are. The weak ones are not. So if you don't feel like you have a direct man, you probably don't have a strong man, woman. So as a woman, go get that stronger man. If you let things go and get the best that you can as young as you can. Because I cannot tell you how many women I've talked to where they're older, they're in their late 30s or 40s or 50s, and they're looking back at their life and they're looking at their kind of behavior and they're thinking to themselves, now not all of them that I've talked to, but a vast majority of them, and they look at their lives and they think, wow, yeah, I completely wasted that. I completely wasted my opportunity there. So don't waste the opportunity. Life happens so quickly. Well, how do you know that you're not wasting the opportunity? You have to know that you're in a healthy situation yourself. Are you okay by yourself? Are you okay? Can you take care of yourself? Do you know how to cook? Do you know how to clean? And when I say do you know how to cook, I've asked women, do you know how to cook before? And some of them have said, well, I know how to cook mac and cheese. Well, what kind of mac and cheese? Well, Kraft. That's not going to get a guy, that's not going to get a guy that you want, like you really want. If you can just make this guy mac and cheese from Kraft, that's not going to do the trick. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work. Kraft cheese is not, it's not even real cheese. But anyway, that's beside the point. The point is that you got to learn how to cook, learn how to diversify your meals, and learn how to keep your hair long and well kept. Keep your feminine traits and your traditional values. Don't just give it away to all of these guys. For the love of God, please do not. And don't dye your hair. We like natural hair. Don't get weird piercings. You don't need those. God made you as you are. There's a reason that we say that the body is a temple. It's not just that your body's a temple. It's that your body is a vessel of the ancestral mother, women. That's how you need to look at it. And as a man, you need to look at your body as a vessel of the ancestral father. What are you doing? This is something that I've been doing with some of my clients that I do consultations with recently, is that I tell them, okay, create the kind of woman that you would want physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Be as detailed as possible in what you want, the ideal woman for you. Don't be scarce in your detail. Then on the flip side, I say, now list on the back of that paper what you need to become as a man or need to be as a man to attract that kind of woman. And the results have been interesting. Now, we're still waiting to hear back on a few different people, but for the most part, the results have been very intriguing. The men are starting to realize, wow, I need to actually do and be something more. Like, I can't be doing some of the things that I'm doing right now and expect these kinds of things to happen. Fantastic. Change your behavior. Change your behavior. I know in the past where some of the men that I was around playing 6 hours of video games a day plus, that's just not going to cut it. I'm not saying you can't have fun or whatever, but personally, I don't play video games anymore. Like, I watch the only kind of TV that I watch is YouTube, and I try to be as educational and as valuable content consumption as possible. That's what I try to consume. And I highly encourage everybody, like, if you think that watching or binge watching Netflix or anything like that is going to help you solve your problems financially or spiritually or emotionally or whatever, you're wrong. But for both men and women, I would say that also to know what you're doing right is always start at the physical. What's your nutrition like? Do you work out? How many times a week do you work out? What kind of foods do you eat? How do you feel when you eat these foods? How do you feel when you work out? Do you think you're pushing yourself enough physically? Do you think you're being disciplined enough in your nutrition and your physical exercise enough? And then you go to the emotional. Okay, as a man, are you stoic? Are you capable of stoicism? Are you capable of looking a woman in the eye and not looking away or looking down? Are you capable of these things? Can you be as bold as a lion when you look at this woman? You're not just looking at her body. Of course, like, she may look good, but can you look her in the eye? And can you hold eye contact? Steady eye contact. Calm, focused, collected. Can you do that? Women. Can you just, like, it's very simple for women. It's like, can you just not be a whore? Like that's can you just not give it up to anybody and everybody? What men want is someone that hasn't been with half the community, unlike most of the women nowadays. I just saw this podcast clip of this panel of women, and one of the women says that she lost count of how many people she had sex with by the time she was 18. 18. She lost count. And now she's 24 doing OFANs, and she's just a nutcase. Like, she's just wild. And it goes to show that when men go through trauma and they come out the other side, it's almost like they're respected for it. There's a certain kind of admiration factor because they were able to overcome. Because men can overcome those kinds of traumas a lot easier. For women, because they're so emotional and they're emotional creatures, and this is not like a bad thing, I'm just saying that's what it is. The trauma for them, it's going to be very difficult for a man to want to commit to something like that has actually put in the work and the time and the effort and has the time, energy, and resources for a woman that can give him a family. And that's just the truth. And so women, if you're in your late 20s right now and you're starting to feel like, yeah, the clock is ticking, it's time to take shit seriously. It's time. Even when you're 20, like even when you're 18, as soon as you're 18, you should think, all right, this is it. Like, what do I need to do? Because life is going to fly by. And I didn't have this mindset until I was about 24. 24, I started to realize, holy, this is the real deal. And honestly, as a man, I would highly recommend you just work and put your nose to the grind in your 20s. You don't need to be out there getting all this super experience with women. Like, sure, you need to be like approaching women, or you need to be talking to them, learning how they are naturally. But overall, no. Like, it's time to work. I wouldn't take any woman seriously in my 20s. And I haven't, actually. I haven't taken any woman seriously in my 20s, and I don't regret that decision in the slightest, because it's allowed me to become a certain kind of version of myself that I would never have been able to be otherwise. And it's not because I'm afraid of commitment. And honestly, at this point in my life, as a single person right now who was talking to a lot of different women a couple months ago, I was talking to multiple women, and it was getting to be too much. And I was like, you know what? I need to go one at a time again. Like, because that's always been what I do. I try to go one at a time. But then I started to realize that women don't really respect you a lot if you only go one at a time as a man. Like, they really don't respect you. And so sometimes you have to flirt with other women in front of them. And that sounds like a dick move, right? But from what I can tell, even just years ago, I learned this, but I had to rekindle that fire. It's that jealousy turns women on. They will probably never admit this, but as a man, it's essential to understand this. And it's only because of pre-selection, because women don't really care about how much money you bring or how much muscles you have or how much game you have as well. Like, what they really care about is how well you are respected by other men and how other women view you as far as a sexual partner. Have you ever heard the stories about how women will never date or go out with a guy that still lives in his mom's basement at 30, but they'll try to get with a guy that's married in his 30s and has a family? The reason being is because socially, because women are communitarians, they think that, whether they admit this or not, it's the fucking truth. They think, wow, this guy has the ability to provide and protect in a certain way. Their biology just tells them this, and that's why they just want to be with that guy. But loyal traditional women don't have that kind of mindset, not in the slightest. They don't try to take other men. But do not underestimate how far some women will be going to try to get you as a man to be demoralized or dehumanized just so they can get their women back in their circle, in their friend group. Because once the woman is starting to spend more time with the guy, the girls want to keep her single. They may not even know this. Like, the women may not even know that's what they're doing, but that's what they're doing. And so, as a man, it's really important that if you want a family, you have to learn how to vet these women. Of course, you need to get skills. Of course, you need to get skills. But that's not everything. And the degree isn't everything either. If I had to go back in time, I wouldn't have gone to school. Not college anyway. And the reason being is because the only thing that it afforded me was a student loan. Like, I met some interesting people. I was able to talk to some professors, and a few of the professors were good, but for the most part, they just taught you to regurgitate information. And a lot of it was a dogmatic implant of ideological subversion that is a pathological solution to all of the modern problems of the world. And what happens when you have a pathological solution? You get more pathological problems. And the pathology doesn't even see the way that it pathologizes itself. So it doubles down on its pathology, thus creating more pathologies that are problems. And it just is a never-ending cycle. There's no divine logic. There's no divine truth there. And so that's why another reason would be to follow the laws and statutes and commandments of God. It's so important to do that. I cannot stress to you how important it is. If I knew how important it was, I would have changed immediately. I would have changed everything about my life as soon as I was 18 if I really understood the true value of the 10 Commandments. It's absolutely bonkers to me how we've completely thrown away traditional values for the most part in our society. And the few people that are left, it's rough. It's rough out there, guys. It's rough. So, well, what do you do? Like, how do you have the discernment to go forward? Well, you also have to get closer to God. And to get closer to God, you have to get closer and connect with yourself. Forgive yourself for any mistakes that you've made. Don't forget them. You can forgive yourself, but don't forget. And you can forgive others, but you don't forget. Remember those mistakes. Remember those things that you're doing. What's going to be most important in our lives is not like... It's okay to have ambition. In fact, I encourage you to have ambition. It's great. Especially as a man. You must have ambition. But it's also going to be a question of, well, on your deathbed, if we make it that long, God willing, if you're on your deathbed, are you going to think about the times where you stayed at work later to get that problem done? Are you going to think about how you were able to go on that fun trip, go on that fun adventure? I'm not saying you guys can't take vacations or anything like that, but why do you need a vacation if you haven't worked or earned for it? That's another... So many women out there think that, like, we should just have fun all the time. it's just not the case for a man. It's just not the case. Let the women talk the talk. And like, I saw a woman, like these two women at the gym this morning. They talked for like 45 minutes. 45 minutes. Like right there in the middle of the gym. They just, like, everybody's around them. Like, what the hell are these people doing? They didn't care. They were completely lost in their own world, just talking. And some guys do that too, but most of the time I see it's the women do that. So us men, we have to just be men about it, accept that this is the reality that the women think it is, and move forward. Like, we have to accept this with a certain kind of stoicism and competence that allows us to strive for excellence and pursue bold righteousness. And if we don't, it's going to be a very challenging existence. I went through a lot of different things in a lot of different places. I took a lot of vacations when I was in my teen years with my family. We started to actually get a little bit more money at that time as a family, so we were able to go on trips, and it still at the end of the day was super materialistic, but at the same time, I'm glad I had those experiences, and I'm grateful for those experiences. And I took a few different other vacations. Never been out of the States, but the States have a lot of cool places. And I remember, like, 2.5 years ago as well, 3 years ago, I was like, look, I need to stop, like, visiting, because I would think that I have to leave. I would have to go somewhere every month or so. I'd have to go camping, or I'd have to do this, or I have to do that. And really, as a man that's single, that is striving for a godly life, that has a lot of things to do. Because if you're a godly person, you just have stuff to do. Like, you're not going to be able to just play video games all day. You're not going to be able to just do a bunch of silly stuff like binge watch TV or Netflix. You're not going to be able to do that because you have work to do. You have serious things to do. And so I remember 2.5, 3 years ago when I finally decided, look, I need to just plow through it. I need to just completely take ownership of everything that's been going wrong in my life and turn it into something beautiful, like that mural that we talked about at the beginning. If there's that Sharpie mistake on the wall, it's kind of like what Bob Ross talks about with a happy mistake. It's a happy mistake. You just have to learn how to use that mistake to your advantage. And you may not be able to wipe away that mistake. That's part of, like, women with promiscuity or men with not being financially successful in some degree. You're not going to be able to wipe away that mistake when you're older. But you can build off of the learning experience of that mistake. And that's what's going to be most important. So I hope this video was useful and insightful to one degree or another. And peace be with you. Till next time.